This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back to the show. We are Beyond Therapy, how the Alliance for Integrated Awareness is growing a movement. Today, we're talking with Melanie McGhee again, creator of Acceptance and Integration Training, and Heather Finney, Vice Chair of the Alliance for Integrated Awareness. We'll explore the nonprofit behind AIT, why it exists, how it's growing, and of course, the many creative ways this work is being used in therapy, coaching, business, spirituality, the arts, and everyday life. Melanie, Heather, welcome back. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having us.
Great.
Well,
Yes,
excited to
thank
see
you.
you both. And I know there's a quiet revolution happening in mental health, one rooted in compassion, creativity, and community. From therapy to coaching to business and the arts, AAIT is really reshaping what's possible. And if you are out there listening, watching, craving hope, clarity, and tools that work, well, this conversation is your invitation. Today, we're talking with Melanie McGhee, creator of Acceptance and Integration, of course. And again, as I mentioned, our vice chair of Alliance for Integrated Awareness. And Melanie, let's start with you. What inspired to create the Alliance for Integrated Awareness?
It was like much of my journey, Jill, it was really informed by being pushed by friends, for one thing. But the big thing I noticed was a real gap in how mental health care is delivered. That those of us who are in the private sector, we have the resources of access to advanced clinical training that our brothers and sisters and colleagues in who are serving frontline mental health positions often don't have that same access to advanced clinical training. They are supporting our mental health workforce with poverty wages. So we decided to create the Alliance for Integrated Awareness and to support them by making sure that not only practitioners in the private sector have the tools that they need, but practitioners in the public sector can also get the help to those who need it most.
Great. Well, what
So
gap
that,
did you really see that made you think, wow, we need a nonprofit home for this in a sense?
yeah, I think that part of it was when I looked around the room of the people that I was training, most of them represented rather privileged populations. They were primarily white, primarily in the private sector, and had been in private practice for some time, which leaves out a lot of our mental health workforce is sustained by people who are not in that position at all. So it was this gap and the pushing of my friends. I started to see the other component that came in was I started to see how mental health care is being privatized. Local mental health communities were being bought up by large corporations who were then demanding higher output from the therapist, decreased session times, and really beginning to wreak havoc. And so I saw that this corporate model that was made way into mental health care was going to be sorry, I just hear a little echo there. This was going to be limiting access by like what could have happened, Jill, is this beautiful framework for care could have ended up in the hands of a private corporation that would then limit access. And that was a huge driver to me, those two forces.
Beautiful. And, how did you feel when you realized that really outgrown being held by one person?
Yeah, I think that's still unfolding. That's the last couple of
Yeah.
years I've recognized that. And I felt overwhelmed. And then I felt incredibly heartfelt appreciation and gratitude for Heather and people like Heather. We have an army of volunteers that are just huge help to us and have been able to our due to the generosity of our donors, we've been able to hire fractional support for other areas of our work. So it's not just held by volunteers, but it was the volunteers just filled my heart with appreciation, especially Heather. Heather has been instrumental in unfolding this organization.
Beautiful. Do you want to talk more about the nonprofit structure, why you chose that before we talk to Heather, or do you want to bring her in first?
Yeah, come on in, Heather, whatever you want to say, and we can.
Hi. So
Yeah,
Heather, how
and
did
I
you
just
come
kind of
into work with AIT? Go ahead.
yeah, no, a lot of my friends, because this is, kind of emerged from this area. I live in Knoxville, and a lot of my friends were kind of participating with AAIT and working with it, and I kind of encountered it as well. But I watched a lot of my friends see healing from it. I watched a lot of the therapists I knew start using it. We're all excited about it. And I had some trauma. I had PTSD. I was in a robbery in 99. And I had just carried seasonal PTSD with me every year I mean, we're talking 17 years, 18 years of having this PTSD seasonal thing that I was just kind of, I accept it. I have little hacks. I know it's coming. And, some of my friends said, well, if you were still experiencing symptoms, you have handled it. So do you want to try this? And I was like, sure, I'll try it. Let's see, why not? So when I tried it, it was one session and all of my PTSD, I have not had symptoms since after that one session of that seasonal PTSD. And that's huge. So I kind of got engaged a little bit more in the community after that. And another thing, my foster daughter, she passed away in 2017. And I was really thinking, this type of therapy would really, really work with her. She would have really, taken to it, really felt the benefits of it. And she didn't have that opportunity. And because of, the efficiency of it, what happened with the effective element of it and the accessibility, I really wanted to kind of get in with a nonprofit. When I heard Melanie was developing this, I was like, oh, I'm in. Let me see if we can help you. And basically, we kind of talked together and we said, how do we start a nonprofit? And we were like, well, we don't know, but let's figure it
Hmm.
out. And that's kind of where we began. So, yeah.
I just went out of order with our notes. I just want to make sure. Do you want to go back to talking a little bit more about protecting the integrity and spirit, or continue? Go ahead. I'll let you lead it.
Yeah, I think that because I think that what Heather pointed to, being survivor of serious violence
Oh,
and recovering within minutes after 18 years is really not
yes.
insignificant. And we wanted that for everyone. We really, and what, and I consulted with a couple of friends who were well-established business owners and very, very successful and talked through some of the different models. Like, if we did this, what? If this, then what? What would happen to the model? What happens to the fidelity? And what happens to the community? And what we, in conversations with Heather as well, really landing that a nonprofit is the best model to hold this because it will protect the fidelity of the work and really respects the involvement of the community in holding this precious work that they are pouring their hearts and souls into. Our practitioners, our community of care providers. So that those really came together to make it solid. This was the route for us, a nonprofit structure.
Amazing. And Heather, your decision to, become a practitioner and to steward this community, could you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. And initially, I just kind of got into it because I knew this would help people.
Yeah, it would
I'm
help
behind
you.
it 100%. And then as I started doing more of the work, I really realized the richness of the work. And it kind of was something that I wanted to incorporate. I want to use and bring it to other people in the way that I found it to be useful. And so, yeah, I went through the training, became a practitioner, and I'm using it in a different way. And that's kind of where we get into that creative application. So I use it in coaching. And that's just one of the specific things that I do. And it's not really, it's personal coaching, life coaching, wellness coaching, whatever, some of the journey coaching. My website's journeytotrueself.com. So it's really about not me telling you what to do, but using this model to really help hold your hand and guide you to what wherever the client is going to go with themselves, and honoring that quiet space inside that really gives us a place to kind of make great choices out of a higher state of awareness. Yeah. So it's been really great going through the process, learning more about it, understanding how this model can be applied in so many different ways. So it's great to learn about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Heather's underselling just a little bit here her own work. So this creativity that Heather brings to the work, um, she's been able to like what Heather identified, a coach, you have a goal and then you help them like unfold their wisdom towards that goal. The other thing that Heather is really brilliant at is using AIT to help move the obstacles out of the way so you're in flow with the goal instead of encountering obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. So goals become realized more quickly, whether that's a business goal, and the unfolding of our spirituality, if that's a goal, or an artist who's blocked, or we were talking earlier about how, we can use this with sports. We can, with the sports and athletes, helping them overcome some of their challenges to realize their goals. Artists who hit their blocks, and we need art. We need arts in the humanities.
Yeah, and just to kind of, go into depth with that, some of the specific things I've done, I was working with someone and training them on some software for accounting software, and they were very frustrated and they were not, they couldn't really absorb the training. So what AAIT does is it kind of removes those blocks, right? It takes that frustration, that energy from that's just right in the way of getting to the, what we need to do. And we just went to the side. We did a protocol. We did a process with AAIT. We kind of removed that frustration. And then we went back to the software. And the person was able to really sit there with calmness, sit there at ease. And they were able to kind of absorb the training better, right? So that's just one example. And Melanie mentioned artist, right? I am an artist and I've used it in my personal practice. So with other artists, there's this, oh, who am I to call myself an artist, right? That's the energy that's in the way. Or I'm scared about putting my artwork out there. So we can use a process to kind of remove that fear, to remove that problem that's in the way, that energy that's blocking us from really going forward and being, doing what we want to do, fulfilling our purpose, fulfilling what we are passionate about. So and it's interesting how it unlayers too. The process. I've worked with some people who come in and they're not really sure what it is. They're just like, well, I don't know. It's just, I'm blocked. That's what it is. And that's all they can say. That's all they know. So we start out with, I'm blocked. And we start taking away that block, whatever that energy is. And then it opens up another thing. Well, I'm not blocked. Maybe I'm just like bored with what I'm doing. Right. And then we take away that one. So there's sort of like this journey in a process that it's this unlayering of all these things that we have that we hold subconsciously in whatever we're trying to do. And we can remove those things that block us from that path. So it's really great to see that unfold for people and watch them, uncover their own journey. It's beautiful to watch that happen. There's also some, I think another creative application of is the personal embodiment. We have, we do this work. We're able to use this work on ourselves, whether that's if we're in a reactive moment where I've lost my luggage in Costa Rica and I don't have any luggage for 2 weeks and I have one outfit, right? So I've used it in that sense. Or, we're frustrated in a certain way, or we want to work on some of that deeper things, or maybe some grief we're experiencing, or anything that's getting in the way. We can do that at home, and it kind of opens up this space of. I use it for meditation too. When I'm meditating, I'll use it to kind of get in the flow of meditative states. So that's another way to use it in a personal way. So there's Melanie mentioned the coaches who can get with their athletes to say, hey, you're going up to pitch for your first time. How are you feeling? Let's knock some of that nervousness out. So, yeah.
Well, what would you say happens creatively when someone, dissolves these inner conflicts that can hold them back, that are holding them back? What do you see happening? What shifts?
What I see happening is their own true essence coming through. I love doing this work too. And Melanie, you can you probably have seen this too. At the end of everything, we always ask, what do you know now that you didn't know before? And once we've removed that little block or that thing that was getting in the way, they have this new insight about things that comes, just from being still. It comes from sitting still and finding that space inside that's quiet, and they just come out with something that's like, bam, great. And, it's really wise. So it's always fun to hear them, but you just really see their essence, flow, and you see them start to progress. I know that for me, it's been, I've seen things in a new way. I've been able to move forward. The things that I didn't even know were blocking me kind of came to light because of some of the subconscious things that we hold in our bodies. So you see that as well. So it's really neat to watch people and do this work with others. We've even seen the organic, and I guess we've kind of organically used it in our organizational development of AYA. We use AAIT at the beginning of our board meetings, but when we get in a sticky situation, which all organizations and their leadership do, we'll be like, you know what? Let's go do some work around this because we need to kind of get a higher perspective on where we're at when we get frustrated or when we run into, headbutting with each other, and be very honest and open. And it's helped us do that and take it on head on, with the problems we encounter.
Beautiful,
Yeah, it's
Melanie.
been fascinating. Yeah, it's really been fascinating how, and I didn't really realize this. Heather pointed it out to me, how we've used AAIT in the development of the Alliance for Integrated Awareness in just the way she's describing, like creatively with our board, at our meetings, and then longer experiences at our retreats. Whenever there's any kind of interpersonal between anyone, we all have this one of the principles of AIT, and I believe we talked about this, is taking responsibility for and tending to our inner state is the source of our freedom. So as leaders in the organization, we really take that very seriously, so that our actions and our behavior and our thoughts and our hearts are all aligned behind this mission and the expression of these very high values, so that our actions are infused with that energy. So that any, like what Heather described as any blocks, I mean, we remove these blocks by metabolizing the energy. It's not like it's like, oh, it's there and then it goes somewhere else. It's more like the energy is just metabolized, so it's not a problem for us anymore. In fact, we have wisdom that comes from the problem without the coach or the therapist imposing that on the client. Their essence starts to show through, and their wisdom starts to guide them in the work and their goals. It's quite beautiful.
Wow. Wow, there's a lot. This is exciting. And if you are just tuning in, just want to remind everyone, Melanie McGhee here's our psychotherapist, writer, founder of Acceptance and Integration Training and the Alliance for Integrative Awareness, based out of Maryville, Tennessee, but really, worldwide. And it's fascinating, the work you're doing. And of course, along here with Heather Finney, excited she's joining us as a certified professional coach and certified AAIT practitioner. Thank you both again for being here. We still got 8 more minutes in the show, so I just want to make sure we're covering everything. I know we're talking a little on the creative applications. Any follow-ups you all want to make before we move on?
I think that one place we didn't mention, actually, which I think is really, really critically important at this time, and that is the use of AIT in our schools.
Yes.
We have guidance counselors who have used this. We have teachers who have used this to help address test anxiety. Our children are suffering with their terror about all the things that are happening, and they're not immune to the stress of this. And so when we have our guidance counselors who have something they can use with a kid, just like 10 minutes, pull them out of class or catch them in the hallway, it's remarkable. Then they're steady again. Heather mentioned that using it using it as part of meditation. I think of my practice now as I'm going to go say hello to myself. And that's the first thing, using AIT to say hello to myself again, and then enter this spacious stillness of meditation and like open awareness. And to give our children access to that, and they can learn these same things for themselves, I think is a tremendous value to our collective community when we take care of our children and their mental health in this way.
Beautiful. All right, all right. Do you want to talk a little bit about, AIT as far as, I should say with self-directed practice, what shifts do you see when people are integrating this and, whether, even, the daily triggers and, let's talk a little bit about how your own self-practice, changed your life.
Do you want to take that, Heather?
Sure. Well, one, I do want to, I think Melanie mentioned this just earlier, but it's not about removing the blocks. It is about accepting them. So you just look at anger or something that gets in the way or fear in a different light. And I always like to use the Viktor Frankl quote, between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. I love that quote because I think that's what AAIT does for a personal practice. It really increases that space between what's happening, that stimulus, and how we respond. And what I've noticed as I've done the work is I'll start to notice, wow, I am really being reactive right now. Where before it just happened, by, somebody pokes at me, maybe a family member or something, and it automatically just, pokes at me and I'm reactive. But now I start to notice, oh, I'm noticing that I'm becoming reactive right now. So I have a little more control over it. So that's, I think, the greatest benefit for me for personal practice, and just having access to that space a little bit more frequently and being aware.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's that personal practice gives us access to that space on the daily. And by that space, I mean she's talking about the space that Viktor Frankl alludes to, because that is the space from which we create our destiny. And when we are, paying attention to those reactions, that's at the heart of our personal practice, is to begin recognizing, oh, this is a reaction. And I can tell it's a reaction because it feels outside of my personal control. It feels a little compulsive, a little justified, probably a little blamey sometimes, but it feels like it's natural and it's outside of my control. And when we begin to pay attention to that, that starts to feel like spiritual gold. It starts to feel like gold for our mind, our heart, our soul, because knowing that, okay, so I had that
Mm-hmm.
reaction to that person. I got a little hard in my tone. I could tell on the way they responded to what I said. I was a little sharp, right?
Yeah.
And that's not congruent with who I know myself to be and who I believe myself to be. It's not congruent with the essence of who I am. So noticing that sharp tone, then I take that into my personal practice and work with that so that the next time I encounter this thing that triggered that sharp tone, it's not there anymore. And I have much more thing that the reactions or responses, they're within my personal control. They don't feel compulsive and like I justified.
Perfect. Well, in our last 3 minutes together, how did you kind of want to sum everything up for today?
Yeah, I think that, well, one, thank you for having us too. This has been great to talk about it. I think that, AAIT has so many different applications to really, help us flourish in everyday life. I honor that Melanie started with the practitioners, and I think that that is so exciting in mental health care. I think this is going to be a huge thing and the next greatest thing in trauma treatment. And in the coaching realm, I think it's going to be a new way to coach, a new way to kind of give that over to the client-led journey. And I'm really excited to see how in the future, AYA, the Alliance for Integrated Awareness, kind of embraces our community, listens to our community, and watches AAIT evolve with that, that wisdom of our group. So it's just it's very exciting to see that, and we're grateful to be here, grateful to talk about it, and passionate about bringing AAIT to people so they can use it as a tool if they choose.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how can we reach out to both of you?
Well, you can find me at info@learnaait.com. And if you can check out the events page. We often have webinars that are coming up for free to make sure, if this is the right fit in the next stage of your professional development at this point. And so those courses are available, and you can hop in, and there's a quiz that we have now if folks are not sure, is this for me? Are my clients, were they suitable for this? So folks can find out about that. And Heather.
Yeah, and you can also go to our website to find out more about Aya, which is, I think we're using the learnaait.com.
Yep.
For learnaait.com. And then also, if you want to reach out to me, my website is journeytotrueself.com. So
Perfect. Thank you guys both for being here, for joining us. And I want to wish you both a very happy Thanksgiving. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the week. And thank you for all this information. And please reach out to them for more information on, how AAIT could help you.
Thank you so much for having us, Jill.
Jill.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jill.
All right. Happy. Bye-bye.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.